Okay, so in this video we're going to have a look at the master section, which is sort of this bit over here. So the master section is sort of where you access more of the global parameters, which are generally the global parameters are identified by the red line around the buttons. I suppose you call them buttons, but there's no, it's just kind of a completely flat surface, sort of almost like a touchscreen surface. So yeah, the ones with the red outlines are your sort of kind of global settings. We've covered in the last video, obviously the cutoff knob. We've also got then the master volume and the tempo knob up here. Obviously, we've got this digital display just here, which shows you the value of whatever parameters that we are using. You know, so the amount of cut, for example, there, and then preset numbers and so on. So tempo knob. Obviously straightforward enough. The tempo is going to adjust the speed of the arpeggiator and the sequencer, so they're going to be synchronized to that. You can set the sync to be synchronized to the USB or external. So if it is set to that, and I'll show you these in later videos, then the tempo knob sort of works as a note value selector in units from half to twice, 2 times. So yeah, if we're externally synchronizing it, the sequencer and the arpeggiator, you can put them on like 8th notes, 16th notes, and so on. We've got the data buttons, which are used quite a lot. So we've got a down button there and an up button there, and that's basically used for selecting the amounts for the buttons with the red outline on them, and also for moving between steps on the step-by-step recording of a sequence. So we've got the preset button. So if we just select that and we go up and down, we can scroll through our presets. Okay, I won't go through them all. We'll be here all day doing that. But yes, that's the obviously it goes through the presets. So we can move between, like as mentioned in the previous video, there are 100 presets. And we also use this to store as well. So if I wanted to save, say, preset 21 onto preset 30, for example, I would hold the preset button down until it flashes, and then the display there will flash. I select the one I want to save it to. So if I want to say I'm going to save it to 30, press it again, and it will say save. It will flash, and then that is now saved onto that preset slot. So coming down here, we've got an octave button. So if we select that, then these buttons will change the octave. Okay, so we can go from 0 to 5 octaves. So good range on the octaves. So it's just going to change your keyboard octave amount. We've got a glide button, which is the portamento, slew, whatever you want to call it. So if we select that, again, that's going to go from 0, where there's no glide. Okay, so if we take that up, you'll start to hear. Let's take it up a bit more. That's on sort of half setting. Let's go right up to full. Okay, so it's just going to kind of glide in between the notes. Again, standard kind of thing. We have a scale button, which is very useful for people like me who don't play keyboards very well. Let me just have a quick drink of tea. Hold on. So when we select the scale, our choices are, we've got chromatic, we've got major, we've got minor, and then the others are just numbered, which are referred to in the manual. We've got, so this one is major pentatonic, we've got major blues, minor pentatonic, and so on. There are 12 different, or so you've got 12, you've got kind of 15 different scales all around. That goes up to, let's say 12, which is Southeast Asian, whatever that is. So yeah, when the scale button is on, you'll see one of these buttons is lit. So at the moment, it's in, it's chromatic. So if we go in there, it's C major. So if we take that off, the black notes up here now don't work. So it just gives you the notes. Let me just go up an octave because it's a bit low. So I'll go up 2. Okay, so if I go back into scale and I want to, say, have it in, I don't know, D sharp minor. I'd select D sharp on there. We'll go minor on there. Now these buttons give me just the notes in that scale. Again, very useful, you know, if you're sequencing or whatever, and you don't want to, you're not entirely sure what note is which in the scale. Great way of having a shortcut for that. You could also kind of do a nice sort of, obviously down the scale. In fact, let's get the glide, because you can kind of do a glissando. Is that a word? I think that's the right word. Just up and down the bottom row, which obviously you couldn't do if you were trying to go up and between. Okay, so obviously you can do that, which you couldn't do if you're having to go up to the black buttons on the top. It's coming down. We've then got the delay, straightforward enough. So we've got the mix is obviously how much of the delay setting we are having. So if you just dial some of that in, if you find if you hold the key, your finger down, it kind of jumps up a bit quicker, and then you've got obviously single bits, and then you've got time. Put a bit more in on the mix. Okay, so the feedback amount is fixed. You've only got control over the amount of the mix on the time, but you know, limited in its use, but quite nice just to have a bit of delay in there, just to funk up your sounds a little bit. So we then have the Alt button. So this kind of lets us sort of select alternative and different global functions. Again, we're changing the values with the up and down buttons here. So at the moment, when I first press on that, you'll see it's lit up on the metronome, which is kind of like it's, I don't know if that's a standard setting or just the one that I've got it on. But that basically you can switch that on or off. So that will be if you want the metronome to play while you're live recording a sequence. So you turn the metronome on and off there. If we go across to sync, that's going to be the MIDI clock settings. So the default setting is on internal. We can have it synced via the USB or via external. And I'll kind of look at synchronizing it with some other gear. Probably in a separate video, I'll hook it up to something else. Going across, we've got MIDI, so you can select your MIDI channels, normal things from 1 to 16. So when it's green, that's your MIDI in channel. If we press it again, it will turn orange. That is your MIDI out channel. So you've got separate channels for your MIDI in and MIDI out. We've then got the tune button, which is now flashing. If you want to just recalibrate your the analog oscillators and tune them up in there, that will do its thing. Keep it in tune. Although I've never found it actually ever goes out of tune, if I'm being honest. So I've never had a problem with it. So that's the alt functions. So then we've got the arpeggiator and the sequencer. So if you obviously press the arpeggiator is activated. If you press the sequencer is activated. So when we're in arpeggiator mode, we can see these are kind of linked to here. So we've got direction, which gives us various different options. Again, which we change with the up and down buttons here. So we've got 10 different arpeggiator modes, which I'll cover actually. Yeah, I'll do a separate video on the arpeggiator as well. I'll do the arpeggiator and sequencer separately. I think that's probably going to be the easiest way rather than trying to do them all in this one video, because it's going to get a bit too long otherwise. But yeah, you've got 10 different arpeggiator modes. If we've got the sequence active, you can see we've also got that linked to these other buttons as well. So when we're in sequencer mode, if we press the direction button, we can change that with the up and down buttons. And we've got 3 different sequencer playback modes. So we've got forwards, we can play it backwards, or we can play it kind of backwards and forwards, ranging between the two. On range, if we go back into arpeggiator mode on the range, that will set the number of octaves that the arpeggiator goes up and down. And when we're in the range button on the sequencer, we can choose how many of the steps that we use. So you're not stuck to just having 6. It goes up to 16 steps, but if you want it, you know, like half a bar, 8 steps or whatever, or even some weird number, so you get like polyrhythms, you can set that however many steps you want it to use. Below that, we've got the transport functions. So the play button is going to start and stop the sequencer. The record button, when it's pressed alone, will take us into step recording of the sequencer. When you press when you press the record button with the play, that activates real-time recording as well, and if we press the record with the alt, that activates the step edit recording. So we've got various different modes that we can use the sequencer in, again, which I'm going to cover in a later video. Okay, so we'll I think we'll leave that video here for now. So I want to try and keep these to be fairly short. So I've sort of covered all the basics of that section. I'll do another quick video on the performance buttons, which is going to be the keyboard and these sections down here, which will come up in the next video. And then we'll have a bit more of an in-depth look at the arpeggiator and the sequencer, because the sequencer particularly can get quite complex in that. I think that certainly deserves a couple of videos on its own, if not more than that. And then I'll probably do a few on some sound design stuff. So hopefully that was of interest for you on this video. Usual things, please like, subscribe, share the channel round. I've done my usual thing of knocking the camera, which seems to happen on every video. If you want to help support the channel, then check out my Patreon page. There are links to that in the video. In the video description. There's also a link on the channel header as well on the YouTube channel, where you can get loads of free stuff if you wish to support me on that and get a bit of free stuff in the process. So thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next part. Cheers.